Welcome back to my channel, guys. I'm Raggy and today I am bringing you a tier list in which I'm going to be taking Eevee, everyone's favorite Pokemon, and all of his possible evolutions and their shiny form. And I am going to be determining in any order for any reason which ones I like more. So we're going to have a little bit of insight on a couple of these, what I like about them, what I think makes sense, what doesn't make sense, yada yada yada. And of course, feel free to comment down below which ones are your favorites and why, and I'll respect that because it's for literally any reason. So, just getting straight into it. I know it's going to be a short one today, but let's get into it, okay? So, front and center we've got Eevee, and I'm just going to say there's an A. I have to outrightly just respect and admire Eevee's design. It's pretty perfect. It doesn't look perfectly like, you know, someone just drew a little doggo. It's clearly like there's something, you know, kind of cartoony and Pokemon-esque about it, so I appreciate that. I'm going to jump over here, actually, and I'm just going to rate his shiny form right away. In terms of his shiny form, I'm going to have to rate it kind of a C. I'm not terribly a big fan of shinies that are not overly different. I'm pretty picky about my shiny Pokemon, if I'm completely honest. But in terms of Eevee, he just turns into like a gray-brown color, which is like a bit of an offshoot from just the color that he is normally. Suffice it to say, it's not overly interesting, and I would have preferred it a lot more, I think, if they'd gone something very bold and made him like perfectly like white or something. Just something really like poppy. This is quite drab, and I'm not a fan of that. Then we have Espeon, and I'm not a big fan of Espeon, honestly. Like, competitively and all that, I like Espeon. Espeon has its niche, but design-wise, I think Espeon is kind of a curveball on, like, the Eeveelution dynamic, because they are clearly meant to be reminiscent of dogs. But then you've got Espeon, who everyone kind of regards as a cat, because it kind of does look a bit like a cat. So there's not much else to say about that. Like, I mean, I think its design is okay. It's just, there's something, like, I guess I begrudge it just a bit because it doesn't... If you'd told me when I didn't know that this wasn't an Eeveelution, I would have believed you. I'll say that. I'm going to jump over here. We're going to do his shiny form now. I'm actually going to rate his shiny form as a B. So I like Espeon as a green Pokemon more than its regular form. While it does suit its natural color quite well, I think the fact that Espeon kind of looks like an alien works even better with the fact that he turns green. It's kind of like a green Martian stereotype. I really appreciate the whole design of alien Espeon because he's green, got the big alien eyes, got those big ears. I think they knew what they were doing there. Then we have Flareon, and I have to rate Flareon like a B, if only because Flareon is what I would consider to be like the quintessential Eeveelution. It looks like, if any of the Eeveelutions looked like just a natural progression from Eevee, it would be Flareon. It's overall not that interesting, but it serves its purpose well. It has a fiery color scheme, it's all orange and red and yellow, and it looks like an Eevee. It looks like a big Eevee, but otherwise there's not a lot to say and love about Flareon. Competitively, he's not even that viable either. So, there you go. Then we have... we're gonna do them, and then we're gonna do their shiny. And as for shiny Flareon, I'm gonna put him down into D, because again, it's too similar to what it's meant to look like, and I know that a bunch of the Eeveelutions actually suffer from their shiny form being very similar to their normal form. But in the case of Flareon, it's too similar, it's not interesting enough, and they could have done something really cool. It's just like with Eevee, they could have gone with like a very bold color. They could have made him black, make Flareon black, like, because we all know that black shinies are like kind of like this cool niche that everyone kind of goes after, so that would be a really cool way to make Flareon even more popular. Then we have Glaceon, and I actually love Glaceon, and here's my rationale, right? When you think of ice, you think of like the beautiful like hoarfrost on trees and ice sculptures reflecting the light and frozen lakes and snow, and it's beautiful, it's so picturesque. And most ice-type Pokemon are the ugliest things on the planet. You have like Glalie, Frostlass, you've got Abomasnow. There are too many ugly ice-type Pokemon, and if they're not ugly, well, they're not beautiful either. Like, you've got Beartic, who is like, he's not ugly, but he's not like this picturesque, like beautiful, like work of art kind of feeling. But then in the case of Glaceon, off the top of my head, I can think of two Ice-type Pokemon that are actually aesthetically pleasing, and that is Glaceon and Articuno. So, props to Glaceon for looking like a progression from Eevee, which we love, but also being a beautiful and picturesque representation of an Ice-type Pokemon, so I love that. On the subject of Glaceon's shiny form, I'm going to have to put it down in B. I still like its shiny form, but again, I begrudge it because it looks way too similar. Of all of the Eeveelutions, Glaceon in its shiny form probably looks the most similar to its normal stage, and I really begrudge that. I know this is a thing that Ice-type Pokemon suffer from a lot. One Ice-type Pokemon that I actually caught legitimately way back when was a Seal, and I evolved it and I used it because Dugong is one of my favorite Pokemon. This is when I was playing Heart Gold, but Dugong has one of the worst shiny forms in the game because he goes from a blue-white to a warm white color, and his eyes change color, I think, from green to red. And if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that you had a shiny Pokemon at all. So I begrudge it, and I feel sorry for it, and that's just where it goes. Then we have my favorite Eeveelution, and that would be Jolteon. So I have to put Jolteon up into S rank. Jolteon is competitively viable, aesthetically just the most aesthetically pleasing Pokemon. It's interesting to me that, like, he's the only one that doesn't really have a tail. Like, you could argue, like, those spikes kind of, like, on his rear end there are his tail, but if they are his tail, it's still a very different, like, format from most of them. Most of them have something that, like, tapers off into, like, almost like a foxtail, most of them. But in the case of Jolteon, he doesn't really have that. He kind of, like, he still looks like a doggo, I guess, which is good, but he also looks like a hare with, like, because they all have, like, the ears and that, but, like, in particular, Jolteon's design is so, like, spindly and wiry, and being an electric type, he's also incredibly fast, like a hare. So I feel like that's a thing that they were trying to do as well. So I just really like Jolteon. There you go. On the subject of Jolteon's shiny form, I unfortunately am going to have to put him down in D. My favorite Eeveelution's shiny form is not very interesting. It is yellow-green, which is one of the ugliest colors in the world, not just for a shiny. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Pokemon that get a yellow-green palette for their shiny form, and I feel sorry for them. Where you have just bright yellow electric-type Jolteon, now you have, like, a kind of gross green-yellow for his shiny form, and it's like, I would have preferred literally anything else. Make him, like, electric blue. Be smart about it. Like, I don't know what the logic was for a lot of the shiny Pokemon, but Jolteon's is just kind of gross, I'm sorry. Then we have Leafeon, and Leafeon, I'm just going to give that an A. Like, I don't have a particular affinity for Leafeon, but I do appreciate it. Probably the one thing that I begrudge about Leafeon is that when it was introduced alongside Glaceon, and that's fine, but the way Glaceon evolves is that you had to go to, like, the ice rock, and you had to level him up within, like, the grass around the ice rock. And because his counterpart was Leafeon, you had to do the same thing with the moss rock in a different location in the world. So it's like, it's okay, I get it. You were trying to do a thing for Glaceon, and you had to make a thing work for Leafeon as well, because they're counterparts. But there's already a Leaf Stone. And I'm pretty sure now, like, Game Freak has released, like, you can just evolve Leafeon with the Leaf Stone, and I'm pretty sure there is now an Ice Stone as well, so you don't have to do this contrived level them up in the wild nonsense. It was an idea, and it didn't really mesh that well with reality, but whatever. So it's fine now, but I begrudge Leafeon just a little bit for that. That's not why he's not an S, but it's just something I needed to get off my chest, I guess. Then on the subject of his shiny form, unfortunately, I'm gonna put it all the way down in D again, just because it is, like, it's exactly, like, probably a worse case than Glaceon. It is way too similar. Like, again, if you didn't tell me that this was his shiny form, I would never have known. Otherwise, there's not much else to report on Leafeon, so there you go. Then we're going to find Sylveon over here, and Sylveon, give Sylveon a B. Sylveon is a very unique and cool, interesting design. It was the only Eeveelution that has been released on its own so far, and it was released in X and Y to kind of be like the cover child, I guess, for the new fairy typing, and Sylveon does that very well. And you could argue that this suits fairy typing, but I feel like his overall design is way too extra. There's way too much going on. And like, I know Sylveon is a lot of people's favorite Pokemon, but just with the, I feel like there's something that's just a little too much. Maybe like lose the ribbons or something. Like there's just something that's happening. It's way too busy, I'll say that. Then we have his shiny form, and I'm going to rate that an A, probably the first one I think here that's rated higher than its base form. I like it in the blue. It makes sense that it's in the pink, but I really appreciate that like very different shiny form that is still aesthetically pleasing. Essentially, they just swapped all the pink and blue locations on its sprite, and sometimes that's all you need to do. I would use Sylveon as an example for future Pokemon, as like, this is what your shiny form should be reminiscent of. It should be strikingly different at a glance and also make sense aesthetically, so we like that. Then we have Umbreon, and I know Umbreon is a lot of people's favorite Pokemon, not just at Eeveelution. And Umbreon, I'm just gonna give it a B. I understand why people like Umbreon. It's cool looking, it's very unique. It, as a dark type Pokemon, as the Pokemon that kind of introduced the concept of dark type Pokemon, Umbreon does a really good job. But I have tried to use an Umbreon competitively before as well, and it didn't really go my way. I don't like the way that Umbreon is intended to be used, and otherwise, aesthetically, while I see why people like it, it's not really my flavor. So I respectfully give it a B. For pretty much all the other reasons, I'm going to give Shiny Umbreon the exact same rating, because at a glance it is clearly different. There's not much different about it. It gets blue rings instead of yellow, and I think its eye is yellow as well, and that's fine. That's fine. It works and it does its job well. It's hard to say because this is like a 2D sprite and this is a 3D sprite, so like really hard to tell here. But I think maybe the black on Shiny Umbreon is like a touch lighter as well. It's not as good as Sylveon's Shiny, I will say that. Then, lastly on this list, we have the Vaporeon variants. And for Vaporeon, I'm actually going to put Vaporeon up into S rank, because I think the Mermaid Tail is a very bold design choice. Just all of the aquatic features, right? One of the original Eeveelutions, Vaporeon, as a representative of the water type, this Pokemon is kind of perfect because it has like the fish tail, it's got the fins on its head and on the side of the face, perfectly blue coloring. I love like the neck frill thing. It's perfectly an aquatic Pokemon. And then if you don't know, Vaporeon also has like this whole deal where apparently like, and this is just flavor to the series, but apparently when submerged in water, Vaporeon is able to kind of just be the water. So unlike a fish who is clearly like a physical object in the water, Vaporeon can exist consciously as a liquid form when submerged in water, which is pretty cool, and I don't think any other Pokemon has this. They should really do something else with that in the series, but I don't know. There's a lot of Pokemon I haven't seen, game-wise and TV shows, so maybe they have and I just haven't seen it. Comment down below if you know if they've ever actually done much with that outside of a couple of battles in the anime. Whatever. Then, lastly on this list, we have Vaporeon's shiny form. And I've said this before on the channel that I really like Vaporeon shiny, so I'm going to put it up in S rank right next to his base form. So the only Eeveelution who is like unanimously loved for their design through and through. The purple color just works very well. This color is used elsewhere on other Pokemon such as Mudkip, and I've said it regarding Mudkip as well, that it just works. It is strikingly different and it suits this Pokemon as well. Probably not as well as the default blue coloring, but if this was the color that you told me that Vaporeon was meant to just be like in its base form and I didn't know any better, I would probably believe you. So there you go. In any case, everybody, this has been my ratings of Eevee and all of his Eeveelutions and their shiny forms. And yeah, feel free to comment down below which ones that you like and tell me why. If you enjoyed this content today, then please make sure to give the video a like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell icon as well so you can get instant updates anytime there's a new upload. In any case, Ragamuffins, my name is Reggie Rug, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.